Thank you and good afternoon. Now we're in open session for the council meeting of the City of San Bernardino. Please ask that you silence your cell phones and other electronics and refrain from creating any disruptive sounds. I'd like to invite Father Leonard De Pasquale from St. Bernardine Catholic Church to come forward to lead us in the invocation. Please stand.
Let us please offer a moment of silence for Officer Farsi. And as we pray today, I would like to offer a brief scripture, Psalm 100, which is a hymn of thanksgiving. Shout joyfully to the Lord, all you lands. Worship the Lord with cries of gladness. Come before him with joyful song. Know that the Lord is God, our Maker, to whom we belong, whose people we are, God's well-tended flock. Enter the temple gates with praise, its courts with thanksgiving. Give thanks to God, bless his name. Good indeed is the Lord, whose love endures forever, whose faithfulness lasts through every age. May the words of the psalmist inspire us to be thankful for the blessings of the past year and look forward to this new year of 2018 as a year of grace and of opportunity. Lord, you are a God of mercy and love. Give us strength to do what is right and good before you and to fulfill your will. Bless our city of San Bernardino, our city officials, and all our residents, that we may work in unity to find the best ways to serve one another and to build up a community of peace. A community with our hearts filled with joy and with gratitude for your blessings. Help us to care for the most destitute and marginalized of our society. Guide us as we continue to pursue a common ground for peace, reducing violence within our city streets and neighborhoods, and let us go forth with vigor, filling the lives of people with new hope. We ask this all in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father De Pasquale. We'll now ask Councilmember Richard to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let me begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like the city attorney to report on closed session.
Yes, Mayor. These agenda items were all under existing litigation. The first case, Andrade versus the City of San Bernardino. Council gave litigation directed by vote of 7-0. In the 3 of the 4 marijuana cases, those cases being Kush Concepts versus the City, Quang Yi versus the City, and Carmel Row versus the City. Council gave litigation directed by vote of 6-0 with Councilman Valdivia absent. And in the added matter, which was also added under existing litigation, the case of Renter versus the City, Council gave settlement directed by vote of 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Blanca Lopez and Daryl Payton to come forward to the podium. Thank you. We just have one presentation this evening. This is a proclamation of the Mayor and City Council regarding the Earned Income Tax Credit Awareness Month. Whereas in 2016, California took a momentous step forward on behalf of the working families by joining 26 states and the District of Columbia by establishing the state's Earned Income Tax Credit. And whereas the economic impact of this program is profound, in the first year, Cal EITC boosted the income of nearly 400,000 Californians, providing nearly $200 million in refunds. In California alone, an estimated $2 billion of state and federal earned income tax credits has not been used. Whereas, with hundreds of millions of dollars allocated for working Californians, qualifying families will receive the Cal EITC refund, providing additional funds to support their needs. And whereas, in addition to providing economic security, Cal EITC can have a positive impact on the overall wellness of California families, especially children. Tax credits are associated with better overall outcomes of a child's health and education. Children whose families receive a boost in income from EITC perform better in school, making them more likely to finish high school, pursue higher education, and have higher earnings as adults. Now, therefore, the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino do hereby proclaim the month of January 2018 as Earned Income Tax Awareness Month. Thank you very much for being here to accept this.
I want to thank the mayor and the city council for this proclamation. Just to give a little bit more additional context to the Cal EITC, this month does kick off the tax season for 2018, and we're very excited to work with the council and the mayor, as well as the city manager's office, to get the word out about the Cal EITC to all San Bernardino residents. This year, the eligibility rate has tripled, making 1.1 million Californians eligible for the Cal EITC, a large portion of it being here in San Bernardino County, as well as Riverside County, the inland region as a whole, a highly eligible population for the Cal EITC. So we're excited to get the word out on eligibility requirements to working families, working individuals that will qualify for this tax credit, and hopefully bring in more tax dollars into our community that we will all continue to benefit for, not just on a level that will help families, but dollars that will continue to circulate through our communities. So we're very excited for this opportunity to work together, get the word out, and bring more tax dollars to our city. Thank you.
Excuse me. If someone were interested in finding out more information about the income tax credit, what website would they go to? What address?
It's the CalEITCforme.org. Thank you for asking that question. And we have a lot of useful information on there, including two very important tools. One being the Cal EITC calculator with 7 simple questions. Somebody can find out an estimate of how much they can receive back for the Cal EITC and the federal EITC. As well as an additional tool called a Vita Locator, and it's you type in your zip code or city address, and it brings up the nearest locations for free tax preparation, and for anybody making under $55,000 a year. So those two tools are very important, and people can find out what their eligibility status is there, as well as get free tax preparation if they're eligible. Thank you. And then once again, it's CalEITCforme.org.
Thank you for your presentation. Next, we'd like to turn some time over to the Chamber of Commerce. Colin Strange.
Good evening, everybody, and a happy and prosperous new year to everyone. I'm Colin Strange, Director of Business Resources for the San Bernardino Area Chamber of Commerce, with the calendar announcements for the next 2 weeks. It's a bit of a light calendar this beginning of the year. On Tuesday, January 9th, the San Bernardino City Unified School District Board meeting will take place at their community room at 777 North F Street, beginning at 5:30. Wednesday, January 10th at 7:30 a.m. at the Chamber offices at 546 West 6th Street. Our featured Coffee Klatch speakers are Pam Kempthorne and Laura Smith of the San Bernardino Unified School District, who will be talking about the Link Learning Career Pathway Program, which will be followed at 9 o'clock by the Chamber of Commerce Governmental Affairs Committee. Call 885-7515 if you need some more information. On January the 11th at 5:30 p.m. Aim for Strength Fitness, I beg your pardon, is offering a pound class at the Resic Center at St. Bernardine's Medical Center. Well, what is a pound class, you may ask? Well, as the brochure says, if you love music and tap your feet to a good beat, you will love this workout. Good way to start the year. January 13th at 10 p.m., the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Action Talk and Day of Service event will take place at the YMCA at 808 21st Street, 754-3242, if you're looking for more details. Our guest speaker at Coffee Klatch on Wednesday, January the 17th is Angie Carnystrom from Innovage, who will be discussing aging in place at their beautiful facility on Waterman Avenue. Finally, if you've ever dreamed of seeing the Northern Lights and the magnificence of glaciers and volcanoes in Iceland, the Chamber is organizing a 6-day, 4-star round trip to the island in October. So if you'd like to call the Chamber at 885-7515 for a brochure or more details, please feel free to do so. So here's wishing everybody a very happy and peaceful Martin Luther King Jr. Day on January the 15th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate the Chambers always keeping us apprised of upcoming events. And I think that the comment about aging in place, probably we can understand that. Before we go into our consent calendar, I'd like to turn some time over to the City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Council, I'd like to request that we add an item to this evening's agenda. It relates to an action that the Council took at the last meeting on December 20th involving the Joint Powers Financing Authority and authorization that you provided to staff to execute and deliver documents. And with that, you'd first need to vote to add the item, and then if you agree to that, then we could hear the item.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Have a voice vote?
No, actually.
Do you have it?
We should have the voting screen.
Wow. I'm impressed.
Fix some technical issues. You have it? Yes. And you want it? Yes.
The motion to add this to the agenda was made by Mr. Mulvihill, seconded by Mr. Charette, and passes unanimously.
Thank you. City Manager?
And just before I start that, I think actually the city clerk reminded me of something that's pretty critical. A couple meetings ago, since she talked about technical issues, there was a comment that the council, while discussing an item, if there was a vote that appeared on the screen. We did research that. You had not voted on that item, but it was reflecting a vote on the prior, so it was staying on the screen that the public has an opportunity to view for an extended time period into the next discussion item. So I think you've now been able to fix that, so there's no vote being reflected when you're talking about another agenda item.
Thank you.
Did I state that correctly?
Correct.
Good. The item that we added is related to an action that the council took at an earlier meeting. It was your December 20th meeting, and at that time there was a series of actions we'd asked you to take related to the Joint Powers Financing Authority, and then you authorized the city manager to deliver certain documents. This relates to financing of public projects, and in particular a refinancing that we had discussed. There were two resolutions that we referenced in the recommended action. When we looked, though, at the staff report after the fact and began preparing resolutions for signature, we realized that inadvertently the resolution referring to the city council acting within its own authority was duplicated, and so you did not have, as part of your agenda packet, the resolution of the San Bernardino Joint Powers Financing Authority making required findings and authorizing the execution and delivery of documents relating to the issuance of the 2018 lease revenue refunding bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $4.5 million for the purpose of refunding the 1996 lease revenue refunding bonds and authorizing and directing certain actions in connection therewith. Again, it was referenced in your staff report. The council, though, we're recommending this evening that you, and you do have that prior agenda item before you, you also have the resolution, the correct resolution that was inadvertently omitted from your agenda packet that evening. It looks like this. And we're recommending this evening that you adopt this resolution. We did, I would note, we did conduct a public hearing. You took public testimony on this at the last meeting.
Thank you. Are there any public speaking comments on this item?
I received none.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Do we have a motion to adopt this? Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. And we have a second. Councilmember Nickel.
On the JTPA item, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Nickel, by Ms. Marquez, the second by Mr. Nickel, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize for the omission.
Thank you, City Manager. And thank you, City Clerk, for taking care of those technical fixes. We'll now move to our consent calendar. Before I ask my colleagues if they have any items to pull from the consent calendar, we'll invite members of the public who wish to speak on items in the consent calendar to submit a speaker slip. But before we go into that portion, I'd like to remind you that you each have 3 minutes to discuss any or all items on the consent calendar. Because children present may be watching online, respectful language is expected. In May 2017, the City Council adopted ordinance number 1438, which guides interaction amongst the council members and myself. Recently, I requested that the City Attorney establish similar guidelines and standards for public comments, which he will be bringing forward at a future time. And no public speakers for consent calendar items? Let's ask Councilmember Mulvihill, do you have anything to pull?
I have none, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Rashad?
Yes, number 10.
Councilmember Nickel?
Number 6 for clarification.
Councilmember Charette? Councilmember Valdivia?
None tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Barrios?
None, sir.
And Councilmember Marquez?
Move the balance.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second.
On the consent calendar, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Charette, and the item passed 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 6 is adopt a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, awarding a construction contract in the amount of $168,214 to International Line Builders, Inc. of Riverside for the installation of a traffic signal at Waterman Avenue and the 215 freeway on ramp TC 16-002 for plan number 13123. Councilmember Nickel?
Yeah, just a quick question. I was asked, I understand that we're overseeing this project, the city's managing this project, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then we have a component of the cost, is it a match, or what is
It's
the...
$200,000 from Caltrans as a
Okay.
fund from the shop, and the $50,000 from the city.
So is it a 20% match, or is it...
It's a 50 to 200. The city put in the money for the design portion of it, and the staff administration.
Yeah, and the question was raised to me, as this is a freeway on-ramp signal, my understanding was that that's a Caltrans function?
It is,
Why is the city involved in this
Well, it's
project?
the Caltrans location because of the on-ramp. However, the Waterman Avenue is a city jurisdiction, so we have a common jurisdiction into the area. Caltrans typically take the operation side of it. Caltrans did a study for that location about the delay in the northbound traffic, as well as some of the incidents and accidents that happened before. Therefore, they recommend that the traffic signal warrant was approved and recommended for construction.
Okay, is it typical that the city is involved in these
Yes,
two
because
signal
it's a
projects?
part of the areas, the city jurisdiction.
So I know other signal projects, it's been almost entirely Caltrans that oversees the
And it
project.
really depends on the location and what the underlying land
Yeah.
is and what our agreement is with them.
Okay,
So, I mean, it really is
Yeah.
a case by case.
okay. All right, thank you.
You have a motion and a second. Which on-ramp is it? Is it the,
Is it the on-ramp
west
which leads into the 215 connectors? It's just south of Hesperado Lane. Once you take the ramp on, it will lead you only to 215 freeway.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
On item 6, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia and the second by Mr. Barrios. The item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 10. This is to receive and file the attached report regarding the 210A series and 210B series tax allocation bond series. Councilmember Richard?
Yes, I just pulled this for a little clarification. I know, just wanted to let the constituents know in the 6th Ward, I did have a conversation with the city manager and assistant city manager, and I know every time this comes up, I always pull it. So I'm a little satisfied now, but if you guys could just share a little bit about the documentation and the backup, so that way they can understand.
Sure, this came up at the last council meeting because we had an item on there to spend some of the 2010A tabs, and I know there was concern about the 2010B tabs. They're very separate sources of funding. The 2010 are for the 4th Street corridor area, the 2010A for the B or for the Northwest project area. The difference is we received through the DOF, through the Dissolution of Redevelopment, we received all of the 2010A, which were the $6 million. However, unfortunately, the B bonds were not sold until February 1st, 2011, so some of them were disqualified. We received 5% initially, and when we get our final ROPS, we'll receive the remaining 35%. So it's a total of about $1.3 million of the $2.7 for the original bond. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you.
You bet.
So I move to approve.
Second.
And I would note, there are projects that are in the capital improvement budget that we've been working with Councilmember Richard on. One that comes to mind is State Street. There's some proposed funding for Delman Heights Park, and so there are some other projects, the fire station demolition. So again, we'll continue to identify projects in that area that can be used, can be funded with the bond proceed. But just a reminder, unfortunately, the maximum we're ever going to get from that issuance is 40% of that.
Next is item K11, to adopt a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of San Bernardino, California, authorizing the city manager to establish and implement the radio supply program.
Mr. Mayor, we have a presentation for you. Okay, and it will be brief, I promise. But, as the council's aware, you've really made it clear that you want to see changes in the community. The residents are concerned about quality of life, and we're working to strengthen our code enforcement efforts. We thought it was important, though, there are an awful lot of property owners that are really doing a very nice job maintaining their properties, both residential properties and commercial, and certainly it might become tempting to not maintain your properties in compliance with city code when there are other properties around you that aren't. And so we really wanted to recognize those efforts. And so Tanya's been working on this with our quality of life team, and she's just going to talk briefly about what we want to do. And again, we just think it's important we recognize, as much as we're out there doing enforcement, but recognize the positive things too. And we will be brief, I promise.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So before you today for consideration is the Neighborhood Pride Program. As Andrea mentioned, as the city moves forward to enhance our code enforcement efforts, we felt it was also critical to recognize the community members that are taking pride and ownership in their properties, whether it be residential or property owners. Anyone can nominate. Nomination forms will be on the website, available in the information center, and also can be emailed in. So everything will be posted online. The nomination form will include all of this information in there as well. It's really a positive thing for this city and reflects on what Andrea said multiple times, a world-class city that we're aimed at. And I'm fortunate to be part of the team. Does anybody have any questions on this agenda item?
Well, I support the program. Thank you for doing this. I think it's something that's desperately needed. As you had alluded to the term world-class city, I think that's going to be sort of a mantra for us moving forward. And what I'd like to do is, I support these types of programs, but I think it's also important that we connect these programs to a common theme, a common brand. Obviously, we have the city of San Bernardino, but I think we also need to connect it to this overall theme of creating a world-class city. So I will leave it to you, the experts, to figure out how best to come up with that consistent branding, theme, and message. But I think it's very important that our residents start to see this message consistently in these types of programs that we're supporting, so that they start to understand why we're doing this. I also received a couple concerns. I know we've had some discussions over the last couple years, but there has been some confusion among the public in terms of what their obligations are. Obviously, we had watering restrictions due to the drought, but we also want to ensure that people maintain their yards, maintain their landscaping. There are also some various programs that are available to qualified residents. So I think that this program is perhaps a good opportunity as well to educate the public in terms of some of the opportunities that are available to them and then what their responsibilities really are. And hopefully we can improve that communication between code enforcement, water. I think there was just some there just didn't seem to be that level of cooperation and communication, but my hope is that as we move forward, we've had concerns about the watering of trees. We get one side that says, yes, we are watering, others that say we're restricted, we can't water. And so I think it's important as we're moving forward with this overall beautification concept that we really have a consistent message in terms of what we're communicating to the public, in terms of what the obligations are, what the rules and restrictions are, from all standpoints, both in regards to our water department and our community development department. But thank you. I applaud this, and I will support it. I'll second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mulvihill?
And just to emphasize the message, under the background, the first sentence, in short, the message is the community takes pride in the place they call home and encourages investment in the city. I think that's what we want.
Thank you. City Manager.
Just to respond to those comments, we are spending a considerable amount of time creating opportunities for city departments to work together, and as the council really reinforces and defines what that paradigm is, how you expect the city to operate, our customer service standards, we're now spending time with all of our departments making sure that they are acting in alignment with what the council's expectation is. So there is increased communication with our water department. Our code enforcement department is now actively engaged in our quality of life program. We see one component of that. As the council is aware, we're currently working on an RFP to bring in a public relations firm to assist. We do have a communications staff member who's responsible for our newsletter and website, but that's a lot of work for one person, so we really think that there needs to be this overarching program that really begins to brand things and look at our messaging. You gave me a great opportunity to plug the new newsletter. This is the current issue. It's going out today, and I think Monica probably just sent it out a moment ago to about 4,000 or 5,000 of our closest people. So you can sign up for this online. It's got a lot of great information in it. And again, this gives us an opportunity to talk about the expectations and make sure that people are aware of some of those codes and things that we are out enforcing. So again, we see this as a tool to help with some of that.
Thank you. Councilman Barrios?
Thank you, Mayor. Tanya, just going back to the program, great job. How are the residents going to be recognized aside from the yard sign, or is that just a pride thing as far as?
In addition to the yard sign, so nominations will be accepted, and by every other month, we'll bring them to the Quality of Life team. And at that time, they'll select 30. Now, we don't know what the response will be, but I'll tell you that I received 12 phone calls from an article that was published in the newspaper. And so that's really good. I mean, it is just a dozen, but we haven't even approved this yet.
Will those residents be recognized here at our council meeting?
Yes, so they will be recognized at a scheduled council meeting, and I'll provide a schedule ahead of time that all of you will have if this is adopted. And they'll be 30. We'll have the option of being recognized. We will provide a consent form, before we release any information.
My second question, do they need to be homeowners or can be renters? Because a renter can really beautify their yard, but...
See, we do care about both, so I
how
will
is that gonna
refer
be
to the
taken
city
care of?
manager.
Yeah, our goal would be to recognize the person who's maintaining the property and keeping the property in compliance with the city standards and demonstrating the pride.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Tanya, good job, and kudos to the Quality of Life team. For those homeowners or renters who would like to participate in this, hopefully you'll end up on the cover of one of these, because I think it's something to be prideful. I know when my mom was alive, she would take a lot of pride in having a meticulous lawn. I mean, every blade of grass was perfect. And I will hopefully continue that legacy for her. So I guess we already have a motion. Okay,
We have
thank
a
you.
motion and a second. No further discussions. I'd like to thank the city manager and Tanya for bringing this forward. I do believe it's very, very much in keeping with some of the principles that we've been talking about in the strategic planning meeting to help encourage investment in our community.
On item 11, Mayor, the motion to approve is made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Nichol, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 12. This is to introduce the first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.56 of the City of San Bernardino Municipal Code related to elections to implement the provisions of the newly adopted charter.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have our special counsel, Kim Barlow, here. As the council is aware, we are in the process of continuing implementation of the charter. As a reminder, the charter is a document that dramatically changes our structure, and so we have years and years of city codes and policies and procedures and things that have been built around that. The council authorized the development of a charter implementation team. It's the city attorney's office and city manager's office, and recognizing the extensive work that needed to be done, we did also engage special counsel Kim Barlow from Jones Mayer to assist us in this. Kim's going to walk through this. Jelena, Terry, Kim, Rebecca, several of us have looked at this and spent time with it. Kim's going to present it, and then certainly we're all available to answer any questions that the council may have. And with that, Kimberly.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'll try to make it simple and short. The charter tried to simplify your process, and so we wanted to do the same thing. This ordinance is significantly shorter than the existing elections provisions, and there are good reasons for that, not the least of which is we're going to save a few trees in the printing process. So what we've done, because your charter provides for a primary and general election system, which is not a general law process for general law cities, we have spelled out in your code that beginning in 2018 this year, the primary elections will be held in consolidation with statewide primary election. The primary election for the state will be moving in 2020, and so it may seem a little redundant that we have a provision for both 2018 and 2020 in here, but we didn't want to say 2018 and every 2 years thereafter when it wasn't going to be the same time frame. So that's why we have that. The general election will be held in consolidation commencing this year, and then we've specified which seats are up for which terms. The filing fee section is essentially the same. We have designated the city clerk as the elections official, except as the San Bernardino County elections official may be called to conduct those elections. We did have to provide for what happens in the at your primary, because that is not something that typically happens in general law cities. So what we've done is take a look at the state law that provides for non-partisan seats for which there is a primary, and that's where these provisions come from. So if at the primary a candidate receives a majority vote, they will be deemed elected and they will be sworn into office after the November election is certified. If there is no majority vote getter, then there shall be the two highest vote getters will be on the general election unless there's a tie. And we've got two different provisions for tie. One is if there's a tie for first place for more than two people, in which case all of those tied candidates will be on the ballot for general election, or if you have a tie in second place. So the first place vote getter would be on the ballot, and the tied second and third place candidates would also be on the ballot in that scenario.
Councilman Charette, you have a question?
The term majority, that's 50% plus one, correct?
Of those voting, yes.
Right, so, okay, because what we talked about earlier today, it was a little confusing, sounded as though a majority could be the largest vote getter, and that's not the case.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Then the people elected in the November election will be sworn in and begin their service at the same meeting that the certification of those election results are made, and they will serve until successors qualify. We've got provisions for filling a vacancy of mayor and council seats that would require the council to select either an appointment within 60 days or holding a special election in conformity with the general law to fill those vacancies. One provision that is in your current code that is not provided for in the general law but we left in for you was the requirement for fiscal analysis of a measure. We felt that that was something you might still would want to have even though the general law doesn't provide for it. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Valdivia?
Ms. Barlow, the primary suggests that there is runoff on a tie or specific language for a tiebreaker on second and third, but there is none for the general election. Is there any, why the difference for the general in case there were need for a tiebreaker? Can there be provision for that?
Because the general law, the charter provides that the general law shall prevail where the general law applies. So that means that the general law provision for a tie at a general election would apply. And believe it or not, that would be drawing of lots. Or coin flip, or some other way of, in some states, they've actually played a game of poker to
unless the council specifies otherwise.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second? Councilman Valdivia?
Ms. Barlow, regarding the bear with me, please. On packet page 196, you spell out the differences of those elected. In line 25, section C, under section 2, you write out in 2018 and every 4 years thereafter, members of the following offices will be elected: mayor, members of the city council, first ward, second ward, and fourth ward. In 2020, every 4 years thereafter, following offices will be elected and seated: members of the city council from third ward, fifth ward, sixth ward, and seventh ward. But it doesn't specifically state anything regarding the city attorney or city clerk or city treasurer. So
that's correct, because the charter specifically provided that once the existing holders of those offices complete their terms, those positions will be appointed positions.
Okay, and so where in the ordinance does it provide for specification of the city attorney and city clerk being appointed?
It doesn't. That provided in the charter, and there will be other code amendments that we will bring forward to you that relate to those positions.
And so the terms of those individuals who are elected now, they will fulfill their obligation through March of 2020 then? Is that right?
That is what the charter provided.
Okay,
us.
all right, very good, thank you.
So, Mayor, the motion to approve item 12 was made by Mr. Mulvihill, the second by Mr. Valdivia, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is
Mr. Mayor,
item number,
Would it
yes.
be possible, just because we do have someone that needs to leave the chambers, would it be possible to take item number 14 prior to, they're both public hearings, but prior to the item number 13, it's the TEFRA hearing, if we could just move that one up?
Certainly, thank you. Any objection by any of the council members? All right, we'll advance item number 14. Item number 14 is a public hearing. This public hearing is now open. Recommendation is to adopt a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, approving the issuance of the California Public Financing Authority of multifamily housing revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $30 million for the purpose of financing or refinancing the acquisition and rehabilitation of the Plaza Senior Apartments and approving certain related actions. Mr. Mason?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The item before you tonight is, even though it's a public hearing, it's fairly routine in nature. The federal law requires that if a qualified applicant seeks to pursue tax-exempt financing through a qualified joint powers authority, which is not the city in this case, it's California JPA, or California Public Finance Authority, and they are a JPA, and that has occurred. The borrower, Reliant Valley LP, is developing the Plaza Senior Apartments in town, and they are seeking to rehab and acquire that property, and they're eligible to do this kind of financing and get some access to tax-exempt financing, which makes the project more affordable for them, and because it's low-income senior housing, it qualifies under the federal tax laws. So anyway, they've done all the things to make the application to the city. The federal law requires the city, because the project resides in our city limit boundaries, that we give approval. We're not approving financing particularly. We're adopting a resolution that simply allows their transaction to move forward and go forward. It's not city debt at all. We have no other involvement with the transaction other than simply giving the blessing for them to proceed with this authority. We have done this before relatively recently with another transaction, and that went fine too. You approved that one. The interesting part about this particular joint financing authority is that they receive a fee from the developer for the transaction, and they rebate 10% of that to the city for our administrative costs of handling the process as well. So it's kind of a nice situation. It's not required, but they do that. And so it's cost neutral to the city, or possibly even cost favorable. That said, this is a representative from the project. Joe Moreno is here this evening. Should you have any questions about the project itself? But that said, you're not giving specific project approval either. That goes through the normal processes with the Community Development Department. So this is simply allowing them to proceed with the opportunity to do favorable financing for the project.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second. Councilman Valdivia.
The 10% administration fee, is that enforceable, and when is that payable?
When they receive it, they would then forward it to us.
And when's it projected?
They get it, and it's an annual fee, so we have not seen the first one yet, because the first year hasn't come through for them to receive their fee, but so for the previously approved transaction, but it's, I don't even know how much it is roughly. They don't get it's not a large amount they get each year, it's just an admin fee, so it winds up being a couple $1,000s for us maybe.
Okay, and we actively pursue payment of it, and it's an agreement that is it essentially a payable agreement, and somehow finances.
I've been involved with these for years, and I've never had to pursue one. They show up timely.
Okay, great, thank you.
What's the expected timeline for completion of the project? If you come to the podium, state your name, please.
Sure. I'm Joseph Moreno. I'm with Reliant Group Management. And thank you for Mayor and the council members for the opportunity to speak about Pioneer Park Plaza. So we're expecting to start on the renovation of this property in April of this year. And so we're expecting a timeline of approximately 9 months. So we're anticipating to have the property renovated by the end of the year, early next year.
And current occupants, will they be given other living quarters during the time of the renovation, or how will you manage the current occupants?
Sure. Well, the renovation will happen with occupants in place, and so what that will mean for this property is that there will be, we'll relocate, or will allow for the community room will offer the community room space for the occupants during the day. So the renovation only takes place during the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And so it's an extensive renovation, but it really, in terms of in-unit renovation, it involves the replacement of cabinets, appliances, counters. So, and that can happen within a few hours during the day. So it really causes minimal disturbance to the residents.
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Moreno, thank you for being here. Just so I'm clear, because I have 5 senior complexes in the downtown area, this one is adjacent to, I'd say, the 5th Street Senior Center, across from St. Bernardine Catholic Church?
Right, exactly.
On F Street,
It's on
okay.
F Street.
I understand that the plaza is 39 years old. Have any other previous improvements been done, or is this the first time?
The property was also renovated approximately 15 years ago as well. And that was by a prior owner. So we were an affiliate of us purchased the property approximately 4 years ago, and so we've been maintaining the property since then. But this would be another significant renovation since 15 years ago, approximately.
I see. I understand that, I have several constituents living there. They're primarily seniors.
Correct.
And disabled.
It's 100% seniors, right?
Good, and I know that there'll be many areas to be upgraded, such as ADA accessibility, which is that's law.
Right.
So I'm very pleased. Thank you for being here. Has a motion been made? It has.
Yes.
Thank you.
No further questions? Please cast your votes.
On item 14, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Charette, the second by Ms. Marquez, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. So the public hearing for item number 14 is hereby closed. We will now move back to item number 13. Item number 13 is also a public hearing. This public hearing is now open. The recommendation is to conduct a public hearing to consider the vacation of a portion of Chestnut Avenue north of Little League Drive and south of Cable Creek Channel. Adopt the resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, ordering the vacation of a portion of Chestnut Avenue north of Little League Drive and south of Cable Creek Channel, and the reservation of a utility easement therein.
Move for approval.
Councilman Nickel?
Yeah, just a question posed to me by a constituent. Is there a process of compensation that occurs in these types of transfers, or what? How is the city? I mean, obviously there's a value to this, I would assume. How does the city recoup the value of this type of transfer that occurs?
There's absolutely a value to a street and highway easement. These streets, though, are typically held only in easement. We're not the underlying fee owner. So we're relieving the land of the encumbrance of the street, and it reverts back to the original owner. So no compensation comes to the city. It was dedicated for public use. If we don't need it for public use, we give it back to the owner that donated it in the original.
And with respect to our costs, we do, they do pay a fee to us to offset our costs. Certainly Ryan has spent a considerable amount of time doing the research on this, and so again, we recover our costs in processing this.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have no public comment slips. Do you have any to submit?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I moved approval. No, I guess I did. There, I'm in favor.
Mr. Barrios, will you be voting on this item? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, could you vote again? No. On item 13, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 15, which is to continue the public hearing to January 17, 2018 for the substantial amendment.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
A second. Any discussion? Seeing none?
On item 15, the motion to continue the public hearing was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. We now move to the public comment portion of our agenda. This time we will invite Robert Porter to come forward.
Mayor, council, good people. Well, how do I put this? I'd like to start a movement here. A movement of getting local city workers to move back to our city. I know it can be difficult. And I know that sometimes there's money issues with the house and moving and things, but I think we should do everything in our power to try to get our local city workers to move back into our community. If it takes some type of incentive or maybe placements where they'd be placed next to a police officer and a fireman, like on every city block, we could have a city worker, a policeman, a fireman, like the old days on my street, when like I could walk up to Finkel and be like, "Hey, how you been, man? Everything's going good." He'd tell us what's going on with his life. And we'd have parties together and hang out, and it wasn't just talking politics, right? It was actually meeting with people and getting to know them. And it's hard to do that if you don't live in our city. It's just really hard to do. I mean, the city workers have to come here and spend the majority of their time, and then they have to drive home and do their lives there, but they still feel a yearning to come back to San Bernardino because they want to make sure they're up on all the events in there, but then they have their events at home. But if you lived here, it'd be much easier for you to attend local events here and have your kids go to school here and attend dance class here and go to karate and start reinvesting in the community that you're benefiting from, right? So it's not that state law says you can live out of the city. That doesn't matter to the people. The people think right and wrong. And they want people working in the city living here. It's just common sense. And we also want people representing the city that live here as well. Why? Well, I brought this up to a good friend of mine who lives on Saville Reservation. And I asked her, I said, would you ever have someone run one of your meetings that wasn't from your tribe? What do you think her answer was? No way. They don't even let members, non-members that are family members into their tribal meetings. Right? They're very specific. Why? I asked the question why. I go, not that they don't want their family members there. It's just sometimes, if you're from a different tribe, you don't make the best decisions for the tribe the other tribe, right? So you're making the best decision for your tribe instead of the best decision for everybody. My time's already up? Oh, okay, sorry about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pilar Cole. Pilar Cole.
Good morning, board members. My name is Pilar Cole. I'm a system change advocate for Rolling Start. And I wanted to say that I believe in advocacy. I suffered a traumatic brain injury in 1994. And I believe that advocacy gives individuals with disabilities strength to keep going and not give up. And I also wanted to let you know that we have a new PACE lab It's PACE stands for Pre-Employment and Community Empowerment. And I was advocated by Rolling Start. And we believe in helping people with disabilities is our number one priority. And we're lacking, we're in need of some grab bars and rails for our PACE lab for people with disabilities, I'm sorry. And I was seeking, our executive director, Doug Vincent, is looking for resources that will help us get grab bars for our center. So that's what I'm here. I'm here to speak. I'm a voice for people who can't speak for themselves. Now I'm learning and I'm getting it, and I trust and believe that individuals with disabilities have hope to be whatever they can want to be, because I could do what I was blessed to do, to be here today, because I'm not supposed to be here. So I choose to fight for people with disabilities. So I'm seeking information and seeking resources that can help the center to help people with disabilities. So that's what I'm here for. I'm the voice.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you
I
so much.
think I would direct you probably to the city manager's office, and she could aid you in your request.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. Marvin Norman?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Marvin Norman, Pumalo Street. I'm here because you guys have seen me every more or less year for the last several years to remind you guys that, once again, it's coming up for the Active Transportation Plan program grant cycle. And this year there are several $100 million available. And I've seen San Bernardino has skipped it every single year for the last several cycles. And it would be a travesty to see us not be able to get anything done. I know last year we had 4 bicyclists killed in the city, and I honestly don't count the pedestrians, but it's way more than 4. And even people in cars, everyone's getting killed in the city and on the streets, and they're almost as dangerous as the other violence, if not worse. And I've already put up another ghost bike this year already, and we're only on the 3rd day, not even done with the 3rd day of 2018. So it's pretty obvious that we need to get some things going, and I'm not just interested anymore as from the biking line side. I also live here, as you can see on a card, and so I'm interested as a resident to see some changes done, because I live here and I don't want my kids to be riding in the street and getting killed while they're riding in the street, and I don't want to be forced to drive my kids around just to get down the street. But anyway, speaking of driving, the other issue that we need to start addressing as a city is driving for those of us like myself who drive electric vehicles. I know there are some chargers that recently went into SBCTA. There are a couple other chargers sprinkled around the city. But it would be really great if we could get the planning department and the building department, whatever department needs to get together to create the permitting standards for installing your own electric car chargers at both at single-family homes and at multifamily residences. And especially for those who live in multifamily residences, they might need assistance in navigating the web to get into the installation at their place of residence with the property owners, with property management companies. And in California, of course, by law, every property owner is required to allow a resident who requests an electric vehicle charger to be installed at their place to be install it. But it behooves the property owners and everyone to get together and do it coherently instead of having everyone ask for their own charger, because it's not the best use of resources or of anyone's time. So those are the 2 issues that hopefully the city can start working on soon in a letter. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Norman.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Overhill.
Yeah. We missed the opportunity every year except this past year. And we applied for an active transportation grant, and we received a substantial grant to do a pedestrian bicycle master plan, which is a foundation for subsequent applications. But we have gotten a substantial grant for it.
Wonderful. That's good. And I would add that there are already existing plans and that have been done, so
but those have been back in the 90s. This
that's fine. Dust them off.
Yeah.
We need something.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes, Councilmember Barrios?
Yes, also to this point about the chargers, the electrical chargers throughout the city, I have been approached by people that have already a plan that's laid out, and I think I don't know if we've talked about it or not. I think we did. Okay. Yeah. And I know that at no cost they'll come in and put these things in, so we can follow up later. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Ricks?
Good evening, council members and mayor. I applaud y'all for the repeal of Measure O to start off with. The second thing is I would like to advise you on a few things that we could do as far as when it comes to veiling for the laws for the marijuana and the cannabis that should be distributed through San Bernardino. Some of the things that some of that taxes should actually go to. Now, I'm not going to say, first off, where everyone goes, education, no. I think some of the first things that we should attach with this tax is to help this homelessness problem first in the city. It's one of the biggest problems, and if we tax the cannabis correctly, we can avail by occupying one of these bigger buildings that has been vacant that is still up to code and house them into an area where it's no longer making the city trashy. I have seen in the last 10 years my city go up and down from this homeless thing. Now, also with the tax on cannabis, we could also help project to getting our parks back the way we wanted them originally, not just from outside help, from our own city. Now, as a citizen of the city and born here, I have seen and worked for Parks and Recreation, so I know for a fact it is possible that the community would reach out and do this themselves if they were given a chance with a little bit of funding. And it doesn't take very much. I know that for a fact. The third, as far as plans for using that tax money to brighten the city, the best way to brighten the city, first, clean it up. Get the homeless out. Second, let's get these parks going where we can have the children safe back in them. I haven't seen children play in the park and literally where I was 15 years ago, where I seen there were 300 children sitting in one park at one time. Now we have maybe 5, 10 children that go to the park regularly by themselves. And the parents are too scared because they see a bunch of homeless, they see a bunch of trash, and I can understand not wanting to let my children go to the park for the same exact reason. So I entitle y'all to be wise with this cannabis tax. Use it the right way, because if it's used the wrong way, I can guarantee the city's just going to go into a far deeper hole than what it has before. I've seen the city come up, go down, come back up again, and then go down once more. At the point of this, I'm tired of the roller coaster, so is all the citizens. And I'm sure y'all are too. So let's use this cannabis tax to beautify our city the right way and work with the cannabis community to do it. We can rally more than what y'all even know. That's all I really have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. One correction, though. The Measure O is still pending a final decision. It has not been finalized yet.
And by the court, not by the city council.
Correct. Thank you.
Yes.
Right. Stephen Rogers.
Mayor Davis and San Bernardino City Council, Steve Rogers, Redlands. I was coming in today and I saw a few of the council folks and people were asking me, "Oh, you're back. You know, you were off for a while." And yes, I have. Been going to just the county meetings, Redlands meetings, other places. I still am very interested in the city of San Bernardino. And in fact, about a month ago, I sent a letter over and requesting, to get a couple meetings set up so that I can talk about some of the programs that I'm interested in introducing to this city, things that I believe, public-private partnerships that I believe will help this city to help itself, and just what some of the other speakers were saying, it takes the private sector to get involved to make these things successful. The public can't do it all by themselves. But the letter, I'll just read the letter that I sent over. I never did get a response, but that's the reason I came, because I wanted to read this, and so hopefully I'll get an opportunity to set up a meeting with the mayor and also the city manager. Hello, Ms. Estrada. My name is Steve Rogers, and I was asked to contact you by Mayor Casey Davis in order to set up dates and times for 2 separate meetings with the city of San Bernardino. One meeting would be with the mayor only, and would be for myself and San Bernardino West Side resident Rudy Flores to discuss the vertical farm food towers we are proposing to develop under the Friendly Communities program, and as we recently discussed with him at the Route 66 Rendezvous event. The second meeting request I discussed with the mayor after a recent meeting would be about the Santa Fe Depot building renovations, ownership, and operations under an agreement with Sandbag, now called SBCTA, or San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. For the second meeting, the mayor requested that the city manager also be scheduled to attend due to the nature of the subject matter we will be discussing. Thank you.
Thank you. It might be appropriate now that we have a new economic development director to direct your attention to our new economic development director, which is Kathy Brand. Thank you. That concludes our public speaking comments. Any items from council members to be referred to council committees? Councilman Nickel?
Yeah, I've received a number of questions. Obviously, there were a number of new laws that came into effect as of the first of this year. And back in August, there was quite a bit of discussion about a requirement by the Department of Justice where the city had to affirm whether or not we were a sanctuary city as pertained to certain grant funds that we had applied for from the Department of Justice. As of the 1st of January, it appears that there is now a state law in place that more or less obligates local law enforcement to conform to the idea of this sanctuary city policy. And the concern expressed to me is what, if any, effect this may have on the city's ability to apply for and receive DOJ funding. I'm not sure what, if any, analysis has been conducted thus far. It may be a bit premature, as the law has just recently gone into effect. But I think this is something we need to clearly understand. And certainly if it does jeopardize federal funding that we desperately need in terms of public safety in the city, that we develop an appropriate response. But I do want to communicate the concern that has been expressed to me on this matter, and that we implore our staff to assess what the potential impact may be, and that, if necessary, determine a response that's appropriate given the circumstances.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, we certainly will continue to bring information to you as it develops. It is obviously a very recent development. We are certainly aware of how much federal funding that we receive. That is accounted for separately, so we do have an understanding of what that number is. We're continuing to apply for federal monies, and we have not been alerted that those are in jeopardy. But again, we are monitoring that very cautiously, and we'll bring something back to the council if we anticipate any issues.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Valdez?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Miller, I several months ago requested an update on a council consideration for a Southern California Edison resolution, and I haven't heard from your office. We need to undergo kind of some dialogue here at a council level, whether or not the resolution is meritful. So I'd ask that for your consideration to bring it forward again. I haven't heard anything. It's not been on our agenda, and so I'm asking for that.
Let me look into it. Yes.
Okay. The other item is, as I understand the State Assembly budget process, beginning mid-February is when they have and entertain their discussions. As I've been in Sacramento last year and the years prior, it's quite important that we talk to our legislative and really come up with a council priorities to provide our state assembly members and our state senators some of those issues that are germane to our issues, whether it's transportation or any estate funding issues, so that it's on their priority and radar screen. It's a little too late for us to pick and choose and cherry pick items, but it's quite important that we as a council provide some direction and really come up with council priorities that are legislative in nature for the state assemblymen members to discuss and prioritize and not leave San Bernardino behind. Our city is quite critical, and there's a lot of infrastructure repairs. I'd like to also encourage you to provide a state transportation update. I know that in the last 30 to 45 days, there has been some convening of meetings. State assembly members there was a workshop in Riverside, and I'd like to know where are we, what is our plan, and how have we as a city and staff provided a response to this state assembly, and where is that money, the gas tax money, et cetera? Where is it planned, and where are we prioritizing? So that's important.
Okay, just to respond to those, the Edison, I will check into. We have been working with Edison, and I'll see where that is in terms of bringing it back to you. Some time ago, I did talk to the council. Most communities have a legislative platform that's adopted, a federal and state legislative platform that's adopted. The council concurred that that was an important thing to be working on. We are working on that now and plan to present something to you. It will be the first time that the city's really ever adopted a comprehensive platform. So again, this is a relatively new thing for this city. We will bring that for your approval. With respect to state transportation dollars, we do monitor those regularly. There are some new funds that are going to be made available to us. Some of those you've already programmed, specifically SB1. When you looked at capital projects and you adopted your capital improvement plan, we kind of anticipated receiving some of that funding. We also recognized that there was some gas tax funding. We had revenue estimates for you in that. We'll continue to do that as you enter into your next budget cycle. Again, we have revenue estimates based on what the changes in the laws have been. So again, we are monitoring that as we bring projects before you. We are using those funds consistent with how the council's approved them.
I'd like to see, I think your department has requested your staff to provide a list of items. That's my understanding. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true.
A list of items for what?
For the gas tax usage. And so
the council approved using gas tax funds based on the allocations that we anticipated getting for this year as part of your annual budget process.
Well, I'm talking more recent. What I'm talking about is in the last 30 to 60 days, there's been workshops held. Are we present? Are you sending staff there? And if so, what is your department planning to talk to our state assemblymen? That's the report that I want to see.
Yep.
So if you can provide that to the council.
Yeah, that'll be part of your legislative platform with what are your goals and priorities.
Perfect.
And then again, as
But I want to see a specific list. What's there that your office is working on, so I can understand how my district can also be part of that.
Right. And again,
Okay.
we're focusing on the things that the council's approved as priority projects currently. Anything new would come back to you for approval in advance of communicating that with any legislators.
Councilmember Barrios.
City Manager, just want to make sure that we do our election for the mayor pro tem. I know the last 6 months, it was for 6 months, and we've already exceeded that time frame, and just wanted to give you a reminder so that we have it.
Should happen in December.
Okay.
If you want to make me mayor pro tem, I'll be mayor pro tem.
Thank you, Councilmember. I do believe that a number of months ago, the chief did respond to a letter related to the sanctuary cities, and I believe that wasn't any negative impact as a result of that.
No. There has no.
The first part?
There was not any negative impact.
Thank you. All right. We'll now ask elected officials if you have any announcements that you'd like to make. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Your Honor. It is with sadness that I note the passing of David Ibarra Castorena, who passed away on Saturday, December 23rd. David was a lifelong resident of San Bernardino, a member of Our Lady of Hope Catholic Church, and worked in the construction business for many decades. David leaves behind his wife, Judy Castorena, along with 11 children, 30 grandchildren, and 48 great-grandchildren. He will be remembered for his kindness, generosity, and humility. David, I will miss your smile and your sense of humor. May you rest in peace. It is also with sorrow that I report the passing of a longtime resident of the First Ward, Marilyn Alcantar, who passed away on Tuesday, December the 19th. Marilyn and her family have resided on the west side of San Bernardino for many, many decades. My condolences to her husband, children, and grandchildren. Marilyn retired from the San Bernardino City Unified School District, but she will be remembered for her commitment to community issues, including cleaner air for San Bernardino. Marilyn, may you rest in peace. And I would like to ask Mayor Davis to have a moment of silence in memory of Marilyn Alcantar, David Castorena, and San Bernardino County Sheriff Deputy Larry Falsey at the end of our council meeting tonight. And finally, the San Bernardino Business and Community Organization meeting is hosting the first meeting of the year on Tuesday, January 9th at 10 a.m. at the Arrowhead Event Center, located at 180 South Arrowhead Avenue. Please come and join us for a morning of conversation with Captain Rich Lawhead and myself regarding quality of life issues in our city. If you have any questions, you can call me here at 909-384-5188. Thank you, Mayor, and Happy New Year to all.
Councilmember Barrios.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Wednesday, January 24th, I want to advise everybody at 9 a.m. we're going to have our Southwest District Coffee with the Cop at the Jack in the Box located at 1141 West Highland Avenue. For more information on that, contact Eileen Hard at 909-384-5694. The next day, Thursday, January 25th, the City of San Bernardino is going to do our 2018 point in time count. And for more information or to register and become a part of that event, contact Officer Dorset at 909-388-4925. And that will be happening at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Saturday, January 27th, is our community dump day in the beginning of the year. It's going to start at Paris Hill Park, located at 831 East Highland Avenue. And if you haven't seen our community newsletter, it's really good and informative, and it has those dates and times for the entire year of the community dump days that we're going to have throughout the city. And I wanted to take the time to thank the students from Pacific High School who came out on the 16th of December to help out with the community health fair. Jasmine Lopez, Carlos Vasquez Gomez, Jessica Lopez, and Alejandra Galindo, who are all seniors at Pacific High School, and I just wanted to give a shout out to them. Also to everybody that participated in the Posadas in the community this year. Thank you very much, and we're looking to have even more impact or more days of Posadas this year in December. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Valdivia.
I just have one announcement. On Thursday, January 25th, The Lytle Creek Neighborhood Association meeting will be meeting at the Lytle Creek Mobile Home Estates, the community room, which is at the center of the mobile home park, 1177 West Congress Street. The contact person is Teddy Sanchez at 909-831-7839, Thursday, January 25, 2018, at 6 p.m. All are welcome to join issues relating your neighborhood, and this is a new neighborhood council. We're excited about it. Also, I want to wish my son, Andrew Valdivia, you celebrated 6 years, your birthday recently, and so Mama and Daddy are really proud of you and happy for you. I failed to mention that before I left for the Christmas break. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. We're looking forward to a great 2018. Thank you.
Councilmember Charette.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just one, and it's for Wednesday, January 10th, the regularly scheduled meeting, Northeast District Coffee with a Cop at Denny's Restaurant, 702 East Highland Avenue. Contact Eileen Hards at 909-384-5694. That's at 9 a.m. at Denny's at the corner of Highland and Valencia, Wednesday, January 10th. And I, too, would like to just wish everybody a very happy and prosperous 2018.
Councilman Nichol.
Also, one announcement, the Vermont Neighborhood Association will meet at the Western Regional Little League, 6706 Little League Drive on Tuesday, January 9 at 6:30 p.m. Contact Barbara Sky for more information, 909-888-9880. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Richard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a few. On Monday, January the 8th, the Northwest PAC will be having their meeting at the New Hope Family Life Center at 6:30 p.m., and that's at 1505 West Highland Avenue in San Bernardino. And then on Monday, January the 15th, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will be having the annual prayer breakfast for the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. 38th annual prayer breakfast at Cal State University at the Kasua Arena. The admission is $25. A table is $300. Contact 909-474-7036 for more information. Also on Friday, January the 5th, the Young Women's Empowerment Foundation presents Fit, Fly, and Fabulous. They're having a fashion show and a mixer, and it is going to be at Shandon Hills Golf Club. Tickets are $30 and $35 at the door. Purchase your ticket at youngwomenempowerment.org. And that's through a social club. This for the Social Light Scholarship Foundation. Also, with sadness, I want to report the passing of Frances Grice, who was a big advocate in the community. I remember her as a child. I know she was one of my mother's friends, but she passed away on Sunday. Also, I want to acknowledge the passing of Margaret Hill's brother. His name was Lynn Bynum, and he passed away yesterday. So we also want to make sure we close the meeting in their honor, too. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Thank you, Mayor. I hear 2018, I think, that's unbelievable. It's 2018. But anyway, I do all wish everyone a Happy New Year and a prosperous one as well, even though it still is a little bit hard to believe it's that year. One announcement, Community Builders will hold a regular monthly meeting on the second Wednesday of the month, in this case Wednesday, January 10th, at the usual address in the library of the First Congregational Church, 3041 North Sierra Way. I don't know who the speaker will be, but they always have an interesting speaker. For more information, please contact Myra Elder at 909-886-1566. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City Attorney? Thank you. City Manager? City Clerk?
Yes, I do have an announcement. Regarding the election this year, Mayor, 1st Ward, 2nd Ward, and 4th Ward are up for election. The nomination period opens February 12th, closes March 9th, and my office is taking appointments right now for those people who do want to take out papers. And you do need to visit with me to get your papers, to make it official. So if you want to make an appointment, the number is 384-5102. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager?
Just a reminder, I announced this earlier, the current edition of the community newsletter is out, so you have copies at your dais, but it's also available online. We're encouraging people to sign up for it, and as I indicated, there are several thousand people who are already receiving it. We want to continue to grow that number. It's got a lot of good information in it. And then I wanted to take just a moment to introduce the newest member of the city's executive team, Trish Ray. Trish is, I think, sitting behind me. She is. So Trish comes to us. She has extensive experience in very large municipalities dealing with public utilities programs and in public works departments, and so we're excited to have Trish here. So we'll have a permanent, full-time public works director, which will help to address some of the long-standing issues that we've had in that department. And with that, I don't have any other announcements.
Well, thank you. In keeping with the request, if we could all stand for a moment of silence on behalf of Marilyn Alcantar, David Castorina, Officer Larry Farsi, Francis Grice, and Lynn Bynum. Thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned until Wednesday, January the 18th, here in the council chambers at 4 p.m. Thank you.